the last day, it was basically John Louie and I kind of head to head. He was live baiting, obviously, and we were trolling. We were picking away at him at the troll. We'd catch a double, but then he'd catch a quad. And it was
Yeah.
like that all day. And I was absolutely losing my mind, like throwing up in the sink. Like just wanted it so bad.
And how did it start out? Like, what was the origin story?
Too much alcohol.
Really? Okay.
Says if God wanted us to have fiberglass boats, he would have given us fiberglass trees.
It's for fishermen. It's not for taking the wife and the wife's friends.
I think that it's a really, really pretty bit.
And then there was a blur that went by and ended up in the cockpit, as far as if I can remember correctly.
What's up, guys? This is Leo from Billfish here. Today we have none other than the legendary Ryan Higgins. A little cool intro. I remember it was maybe 4 months ago. I was on my computer working, and all of a sudden I got a notification, order placed by Ryan Higgins. And I sent the screenshot to Nicole. I'm like, Nicole, you wouldn't believe this. Ryan Higgins just ordered a shirt with us. And that's like, I think that's the cool thing about our brand. Like, because we're so fishing oriented, we have so much respect for guys like you who've done it forever, whereas some other brands, like whatever. But to us, that's what it's about, It's not about the dollars, it's about the guys, you know what I mean, who've been around. So but yeah, no introduction required, but I think it would be good. Ryan, can you give like a little intro about kind of?
Yeah, I mean, I'm my fishing background, obviously for the last 20 years, I've been with Viking Yachts, and now Valhalla Boat Works and Valhalla Boat Sales is a big part of what I do now. But growing up, I'm from Winter Park, Florida, so kind of central Florida area. Didn't really grow up necessarily on boats and fishing and all that, but I was fortunate to have a couple of my best friends that their parents had sport fishing boats and houses in the Bahamas. So probably at the age of 8, I spent a couple summers starting then in the Bahamas in Marsh Harbor, and was fortunate to fish with those guys and just fell in love with it. And then when I was able to drive and all that, kind of late high school, early college, group of my buddies, 3 of us actually just kind of in the summer picked up and went down to the Keys, rented a place down in the Keys. And I was fortunate enough to walk up and meet a guy named Captain Charlie Scoble out of Bud and Mary's Marina, and just, basically offered like, hey man, if you let me ride along, I'll wash the boat for $20 or whatever I can do just to get a chance to get out and learn from you guys. And that ended up turning into like a full-time job with him and becoming a mate with him for the summer. And from there, I was the next 4 seasons, I did that, going down to Bud and Mary's every summer and just learning from those guys. And that was just an incredible experience, just all the different methods of fishing you learn out of the Keys. Those guys are so well versed in everything from reef fishing to sail fishing to the dolphin fishing and even marlin fishing. We just, every day was different, and that was a big part of the experience. And it seemed like those guys out of that marina really wanted to catch fish for their customers. It wasn't like a repetitive job for them. They every day wanted to catch more than the other boat, and I picked up on that pretty quick, and just a good group of guys. And then
What age were you back then, if I may ask?
That was probably when I was 17 when I started down there. I my background, I didn't grow up with this stuff. I just kind of I got really lucky with a great opportunity. I went to College of Charleston, went to University of Hawaii for a year and a half, and then came back and graduated from College of Charleston in 2000. And right out of college, I instantly jumped into a corporate job, and it wasn't me. I put on a suit for about 8 weeks, and after 8 weeks, I just pretty much ripped off my tie, told my boss I quit, and ended up getting a call from the owner of Scout Boats, Steve Potts, and who I had met before. and fished with before, just as a mate. And he was going through a transition with his boat and his captain at the time, and he was looking for somebody and just said he wanted to try something different. He had that kind of older, captain that was kind of set in his ways. And he was like, look, I'm all about giving people an opportunity. So I went up to Charleston and interviewed with him, and he hired me and gave me the opportunity of a lifetime. I was 21 years old, and he offered to let me run the boat. And at that time, going into that job, I basically had, 4 or 5 years of experience and no experience as a captain. So him and his buddy taught me how to run the boat, how they wanted it. And we started out with like the Big Rock tournament, and we actually won the ladies tournament. That was like my first
There
win.
we go. Okay.
So that was cool. The ladies had a great time, and we won that, and did decent in the big tournament, and went back to Charleston. He's like, hey, my dream's to go down to Venezuela. And again, I was 21 years old, and I put together a trip to Venezuela, and we did St. Thomas, and then after those seasons, we went to Mexico in the winter, and it was a very successful trip. I'll never forget pulling into Venezuela, and he was waiting for me on the dock, and he just had a big smile on his face saying, man, I had a 50-50 shot if you'd make it here or not. But yeah, it was unbelievable starting off, that whole process, relatively being that young and going down to Venezuela, and some great captains down there that kind of took me under their wing and really taught me the ropes down there. I mean, we were right out of the gate, we were tied up next to Mike Merritt, that couldn't have been a nicer guy. Legend. Mitch Pearson was there running the Nuco. He was great. Dave Nolan, and Jimmy Grant. All those guys were just so open with, the style of fishing down there, and they were just all so helpful. I mean, Bubba Carter was down there, and I couldn't believe that everybody was so open with reporting, what they were seeing, their bites, and the thing was, people came so far to fish there. You when you're not the guy getting the bites, you want to know what's going on. So that's kind of how it all was down there, and that's.
You probably ran on its own bottom, huh? You went what?
Oh yeah. So, and the boat I was running wasn't fast at all. It cruised at like 21 knots. So
fast back then.
I mean, I guess, but yeah, it was a long trip down that way for sure.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and then following, I did 4 years running that boat, the Caliente, with Scout and Steve Potts, and it just phenomenal experience. He ended up selling the boat and buying a house in St. Thomas and running one of his bigger center consoles. And he offered me a job at the factory. And at that point, I was just so hooked on fishing and wanting to do more tournaments, and I still wanted to heavily travel. So Lee Alonso, who was the captain of a 61 Viking, and Mike McClamrock, who also ran a 61 Viking, they introduced me to Pat Healy and Donnie Gamel, who was the demo captain at the time. And they referred me because Donnie was transitioning out of the captain's position into an engineering role, and had a great meeting with those guys. And I was up in Charleston at the time. They called me and asked me if I wanted to run the boat for the Buccaneer Cup, their 65 demo. And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to. And I'm like, when's it start? They're like, tomorrow.
No.
So I grabbed Bennett Griffin, who is, he's one of my great friends. And we jumped in the car and hauled ass to Palm Beach and got rigged up and fished the tournament with those guys. And we did really well. And, a couple unfortunate things that cost us the tournament, but we basically would have won. So it was just a great process. And 2 weeks later, they gave me a job offer, and I've been here 20 years now. So
how old were you when you got the job? Because you were 21 when you brought the boat to Venezuela. Ran it for 4 years, you said?
Yeah, 4 years, 3, 4 years. So when I started with Viking, I was like 24 going on 25.
You're running a
Yeah.
65-foot boat. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen much these days.
No, and I went in with I not only was I so heavy into the fishing, but what I liked about working with Steve at Scout was the, boat building side of it. And then with Viking, I told Pat that I wanted to get, the captain's thing was a short-term thing, but I wanted to be more involved on the design side. I really had a, heavy interest in that, and just wanted to be a part of the boat building side. So when I started with Viking, he actually had me come up to build the first 74. I worked on the production line, laid the thing up in the, from start to finish, and saw the boat on the whole production line for 8 months. I lived up there. And then once we were running it, I ran it for all the way, to all the different dealers to, show customers and all that. And then we ended up, the first tournaments with that boat were the BBC tournaments in the Bahamas, ran it there. And then I was paired up with Mike Brady, and Mike actually started running the boat for the tournaments. So
that's wild. Have you always had that kind of business acumen? Because now you're obviously full time with them doing business stuff. But I mean, I feel like you went to university, you did a corporate job. Has there been an issue you always had?
I think I always had in mind, I didn't necessarily want to be a captain my whole life. But at that young of an age, I was really wanting to learn the ropes, fish all the big tournaments, and really experience that side of things. And then as I progressed, I started picking up more on the sales stuff. And then, Dave Wilson, our head designer, has become one of my really close friends, and just being able to fish with him and pick his brain and work side by side with him on different projects. It's a very unique group we have. Lonnie Rudd, our head of engineering, he fishes on our team, and so we're always all together. And our VP of sales, Mark Waldron. So that whole key group is always part of our demo program, and as well as the Heelys. So we're big boys club, that's for sure.
No, of course.
Yeah.
Wow. When would you say is it that Viking really took off? And maybe it's a weird question to ask, but from my perspective, that's just my subjective perspective.
Yeah.
Things really took off when you guys brought out the 72. I would think that's how I perceived it. Or would you say it was before that?
I think it was before that. I mean, I think as far as, me growing up and always watching, just being a diehard boat fanatic and knowing all the builders and all that.
Of course.
When they started with the 55, that's when that 55 came out. And this is before I even worked for him. I was like, wow, that is like just well beyond its time. And I thought it was gorgeous. And then on with the 65, those two boats were just, to me, what set Viking apart in the production world. And that's what really brought them above everybody else. But from my time there, really when we came out with the 60, that was the first boat where we brought in the black mask.
I remember that one had the tow rail, didn't it?
Yeah, we had the first boat. We did like a teak tow rail.
I remember.
Covering boards, and it just really had the first, like, different look to it. So that was one step where we kind of ventured away from the traditional Viking look. And then, the biggest at that time, I know we kept getting hit with performance, and the custom boats were lighter, faster, all this stuff. But we have to build for multiple purposes. We have to build for the livability that, family, it's a family oriented boat, that they have plenty of space inside, not just specifically for speed and all that. So with our 70 was when we really started focusing on lightening the boat up and doing some stuff on the running surface for less resistance. So, from hull one it was somewhere around like hull 18 or something. We really took a big stab at doing things differently, and we took the keel off the bottom of that particular demo boat. We flushed all the pickups on the bottom to be recessed into the hull for less resistance. We always just basically screwed up like a engine screen on the bottom, so it was a fair amount of drag. We tweaked some stuff with the rudders and some of the running gear, but most importantly, we did a lot with the weight of the boat. Changed some laminates, started working with carbon fiber and the laminate schedule, and then the interior was a big part of it. Going with like a Nomex honeycomb in the interior units, and all in all, I think we were roughly 10,000 pounds lighter, and that 70 was with the 2600s at the time was a rocket ship. I mean, for us, it was a 45 plus knot boat. And then we carried that on into the 72 kind of as standard. So yeah, that's when it all happened. But the 70 was really the model that really
was that like that blue hull one that when it came out, it was on every magazine. It was the one with that polo blue hull. Is it that one?
Yeah. I would say I think the first one was that blue, like we did a Palma blue hull, I think. So
I remember seeing that thing. That's why it's all just memories, when you say this stuff. It's like I remember when I was a little kid and reading Marlin magazine and looking at it and go like, wow, what is this thing,
Yeah. No, I mean, we've our design meetings and all that. I mean, we're very particular in the aesthetics of the boat, but lately, I mean, the huge focus has always been on the performance. Trying to make these things they're getting bigger and bigger, so you definitely got to make them as fast and as efficient as possible. But there's so much new technology coming out, and it's funny. I look the other day, I found an old spec sheet in my desk, and it was for like a 61 Viking back in the early 2000s. And I looked at the spec sheet, and it's like there's nothing on the boat that you have today. Like it didn't have sea keepers. I mean, it didn't have multiple water makers, multiple ice chippers, and I mean, it was just such a different boat. And now these things have so much more equipment on them. It's insane. So.
Wow. Yeah, that's your thing too. You can make them lighter, but people keep putting stuff in them.
Yeah. So we have to definitely emphasize that when we take people out on our demo boat and explain. We try to keep it as lean as possible. But every time you put a davit on there, a tender, I mean, that's going to affect the way the thing runs.
Yeah. No, of course. So tell me about your fishing career. So you went with Viking on the demo boats.
Yeah.
I also saw you guys won the White Marlin Open top boat. That was the last tournament that you had as a captain. So what was that whole trajectory like as soon as you got hired? After you got hired, what was that like afterwards?
So when I first was hired, I came on with that 74 project, and I can completely understand. At the time I was 24, 25 years old, and Pat and the gang they wanted somebody with more experience. At the time, I thought I had all the experience in the world, but I realized quickly I didn't. But I was very fortunate to fish with Mike Brady for a couple seasons, and I learned so much from that guy. I mean, he's probably one of the best fishermen I've ever fished with. Just very instinctual, and he, for some reason, can just smell where the fish are, and I've never been able to figure that out. But he seems to do really well wherever he goes, and picks up on conditions very easily, and it was just a pleasure to fish with him. Very, very nice guy, and became a good friend. So that was a great experience in itself. And then after a couple seasons with him, we transitioned back into having two demo boats, and Pat gave me the opportunity to run what we call the B boat. So we have the A team and the B team with our demo program. And so I ran the B boat, which was a 61 Viking at the time.
What was the difference? Where did the B boat go? Where did the A boat go?
So like the A boat was Pat and his team. And then the B boat was like myself and Lonnie, our head engineer, Dave Wilson, our head designer, and then At the time, it was Joe Schwab, who was our VP of sales. That was kind of our group. And we went to the same tournaments. Like we would fish 2 boats in several events. So like we started at White Marlin Open, then we do Pirates Cove, and then we would do Mid-Atlantic. And then the B boat would go to the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show, and then it would sell and disappear after that. And I'd jump back on with Brady through the winter, and then in the summer I'd get another boat again. But yeah, I mean, the White Marlin Open to me was I had never fished the Northeast at all. And the first day I went to Viking was the first time I'd ever been to New Jersey. So getting to fish up there, I fell in love with it. I mean, really, having to really study and monitor the eddies, the water and all that. I really got a kick out of doing all that, and just kind of monitoring how the fish were moving, and you know, you definitely had to network, and it's such a big area up there. You can make a 10-degree turn out the inlet and you're you know 50-60 miles off the bite if you turn the wrong way. But yeah, it was just a whole different way of fishing, and we did see some phenomenal days up there. And I just, you know, White Marlin Open is definitely one of my favorite tournaments. And you're competing against, these days and back then, over 400 boats. So we were, you know, through my career, I'd say we were very fortunate to in the release side of things, always place very high. And we were top boat twice, and we had you know, second place heaviest fish, I think, on our 54 one year, and we've definitely had some luck in that tournament.
So you had 2 demo boats back then. How many are there right now? Because I feel like there's one in every ocean.
What's that?
I said, how many demo boats are there right now? Because I feel like there's one in Cabo, one in DR, one in North Carolina.
Oh, demo boats?
Yeah, it's like a
bunch. Right now we have 2 again. So
2 again. Okay.
Yeah, so we have a 64 and an 80 Viking. The 80 is just going to start fishing this weekend. So
okay.
You know, we have Sean Dooley from North Carolina. Excuse me. He's been running the boat for the past 2 years. He's doing a phenomenal job. They just won, or came in second in the CBC tournament in Charleston.
I saw that.
Yeah, they had some sick fishing there. And I think they had one day they caught 5 blues and 3 sails, which is pretty unheard of. And the first day they fished, they caught a dozen out of 15 sails, I think, and a blue. So they just had some top-notch fishing out of Charleston. And we have Thomas Garmany is on our team, and West Rivers, and both Charleston guys. So West is going to run the 64 for the summer. This will be his first opportunity to run a boat for us, which is going to be awesome. And then we have Sean running the 80 with Thomas, and then Ben from the fish tank is actually going to fish with us as well, as our second mate.
Very cool. Didn't you guys have a 80 enclosed bridge demo boat at some point in Cabo, or was that sold?
This year we had the 80. It was our last summer's demo 80, and after the Mid-Atlantic, the guys ran it down south, and we put it on the ship and sent it to Cabo. And that boat was sold before it even got to Cabo, and the new owner took possession of it actually he took possession when the boat returned in January. But yeah, so
got it. Damn, that's awesome. That whole operation is wild.
We're running a Valhalla now as a demo. We ran 55 hull 1 this year, and when Pat mentioned we were going to run a demo program with the 55, I'd been kind of off the helm for 5-6 years now. You know, when I took my sales manager position and all that, when he said we're going to run that boat for some tournaments, I told him I was running it. So
really?
I've been running it. Yeah, I could, you know, that it eats me up not to be running the boat. I don't have the time to do it anymore, and it's not fair to the guys to be like some sort of fly-in captain or whatever. But with it being local here, just doing the local sailfish tournaments in Palm Beach, you know, I got together with Justin and Sean, and we put together a schedule to do some of these live bait tournaments, and had a great time. So it was good to be back up there.
No, I can imagine. I remember. Oh, wow. So you actually started this year again after 4 or 5 years not running a boat. What was that like? Was it like shaking off the rust, or
It was, it was funny because the first day out, we the fishing was terrible, but we had a pretty damn good day, and kind of had a big day compared to the rest of the fleet. So, it was like, man, still got it. And then the first day of the tournament, I laid a goose egg, but but then we had a strong last day. So it was, it definitely took a little bit of getting back into the swing of things.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, it all came back pretty quick. But yeah, we had a great team. It was more relaxed and I used to get so stressed out in the past, but always pulling my hair out that I was in the wrong spot. But this was more for fun and hanging out with the guys, and we just had fun with it. So it was good. And we were pretty competitive. We had a couple good tournaments and a couple good days that we were up there at the top. So yeah, it was good.
Were you with Valhalla since the day they started? So were you involved in that program since the start, or did you transition?
Oh yeah. No. I was, it's funny, when I first started 20 years ago with Viking, they actually showed me some designs for a center console. So that Donnie Gamel and Pat had at that time, that was something they were pursuing, and it just never took off. We ended up getting into a motor yacht line, and then following that motor yacht line, it was and with Sean and Justin coming into the mix at their age, it was just great timing for Pat to pull the trigger on the Valhalla program. And I've been fortunate to be involved with Pat, Justin, Sean, Michael Peters' group, Lonnie Rutt and Dave Wilson and Donnie in starting up Valhalla with that whole team. So I've always been into center consoles my whole life, and throughout the time I've owned several contenders and stuff like that, and just been a big fan of center consoles. So it's been a fun project, and now it's led into my career with Valhalla Boat Sales.
Of course. So let's get to that. So what is it that you do exactly right now?
So what exactly do I do now?
No, so your formal position.
Okay, so I have, one of the things here, you kind of take on multiple roles, but I'm considered the general manager of Valhalla Boat Sales in the Southeast. Our territory is basically from St. Augustine down through the Keys, east coast of Florida. We have Valhalla Boat Sales North, which is the whole state of New Jersey. But I'm also still the Southeast sales manager for Viking Yachts. So I work hand in hand with guys from Galati Yachts and HMY Yachts, work with their salesmen whenever they have a potential Viking customer come in.
Okay.
So still involved on both sides, Viking and Valhalla. I'm on our design committee with Viking and Valhalla, so take part of all the different design meetings that we have. So that occupies a good amount of my time, and but getting into the retail side of things over the past 5 years, I'd say, has been something I really enjoy, working with customers, getting them in the boat they want to be in, and being a part of building the boat exactly the way they want. That's been a really cool experience.
Is that your day-to-day? Do you handle your clients building out their boat and you telling them, what they want to have, and you kind of sit with them and discuss that? Is that something that you're involved in?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is that, day-to-day, doing the build spec, and then, getting that into our sales team on the factory side, to submit the order. But that's definitely a big part of it. I mean, tomorrow, for the last 6 weeks, I've flown up to New Jersey for a day or two a week, and I'm flying up with the customer tomorrow to oversee his build. We're going to go take a look at his boat. It's about halfway through the production line, and we're going to go take a peek at it and review the order and make sure everything's right, and you know, go from there. But yeah, every time one of my customers wants to go see their boat or whatever, I go up to the factory and meet them up there.
Okay, very cool. Now, that being said, I have a question as a boat geek, and I'm sure there's more of me out there. When you go and actually design a Viking, I imagine it must be some type of conference room with a super sick TV setup or something. What's that whole thing like?
Well, I mean, part of our design group is down. So Drew McDowell, who's the head of Palm Beach Towers, he's part of our design team. Donnie Gamel, they're both based out of Riviera Beach here, where I'm at. My office is. So usually it's through a Zoom call like this, and then we're pulling up the different. Our design team up north's pulling up all the different drawings, 2D, 3D drawings that we're all reviewing and looking at proportions, and yeah, just it's every single detail is discussed. And we, you know, what's great is we're working off a past model. So we take what you know, obviously Valhalla was all fresh designs, but you know, the 72, we were taking off the 70, for example. So we took all the pros from the 70 and all the negatives that we didn't like, and take it from there to just try to constantly improve each model.
That's awesome. And then when a customer comes in and orders a boat, do they then just get to like see the rendering and sit in the TV area and then like choose the colors and all that stuff, and they see it?
So yeah, customer will come in. A lot of them have some minor tweaks to the layout. They have certain ideas, so we'll go ahead and note down those ideas, and then take it to our guys in the engineering and design groups, and they'll draw something up, and a lot of times we'll bring that customer back in to sit in our conference room and pull up on the big TV, you know, the idea of, you know, putting it on paper to make sure they like what we came up with. And then, yeah, as far as interior designing and all that, they're meeting with a decorator to pick out every single fabric, you know, carpeting, flooring, every single thing from door fixtures. You know, they actually meet with an interior designer to do all of that.
That's so cool.
It can be as detailed as that. I mean, we have people come in and pick out their wood graining. You know, they want to see the veneers and all that. You get people that detailed, but you also get people that say, hey, I want like kind of a gray color scheme, and
good luck.
I want a 4 stateroom 3-head layout and with MTUs in it, and that's it. Like they wanted is your demo boat looks sweet, spec it out just like that. They want as little involvement and headache as possible. So we get, you know, the best of both worlds, I'd say.
Interesting. That's so cool. I'm looking forward to the day that I get to be part of that. You know, that must be a really cool process. I think a lot of people listening, you know,
it is. I mean, some people, you'd be amazed. I mean, how in depth they take it. You know, we get guys that want to come up with their own hull color and mix, like they'll say, take, you know, 90% of this color and mix it with 10% of this color, and I'm going to name it, you know, after my wife or whatever. We get a lot of that, and we get some customers that really push us, and I think that's what is going to always make us better. You know, we try to accommodate and make them happy, and we're doing some really cool interiors right now. I mean, the fish tank team, their interior is going to be beautiful, and they spent a lot of time with the decorator and just had some really cool ideas, and we were able to, you know, come up with something they really liked. So
you're building a 68, right?
64.
64. Okay,
yes.
Got it. And what engines are you putting in that thing?
I'm pretty sure they're putting the 12V2000 M96X.
So that's gonna fly.
Yeah, it should perform pretty well.
Yeah, she's gonna fly. Okay, man, that's so cool. And then what's like something that you say is there something custom you guys just don't do? Like what's like a no-go zone? Something that someone's like, yo, I want to put a freaking I don't know, I can't even think of anything right now, but
I mean, we always if a customer comes up with something, we try to accommodate, but there's
Mhm.
plenty of stuff that gets rejected,
Yeah.
that you just can't do.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, the hall's basically the hall. But the layout, we've done some cool stuff to where we've been pretty flexible with that. There's some components that people try to put in. I mean, there's been some guys that try to get crazy with the fuel that we haven't been able to accommodate. But for the most part, if we can't accommodate what they're asking for, we make a recommendation on something that's close to what they want.
Got it. I recently saw, I think it was a 41 Valhalla. It was a client of ours. The boat's called Three Dogs, and it's like a 41, but with a really cool, interesting looking tower that has the tower legs on the gun wheel and not on the actual. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
blue
it's
hull.
actually right here, right now. We're
Really? Yeah.
bobbing it right now.
So we're doing all the gear for them, and that's kind of
Okay.
one example that I was like, oh wow, like these guys are really, really doing custom stuff, because that's
Yeah.
not something you see frequently.
And that was Drew McDowell, Palm Beach Towers. He came up with that design for the guy who built the boat, and they wanted that bigger standing platform for the tower, and just that whole bigger area up there, and yeah, I mean, Drew does some phenomenal stuff. And I think you'll notice he's pretty much #1 tower builder in the world now. Or he is. He's building towers for all the custom boats. I know he builds all of John's towers.
Mhm.
And that's what's really neat to walk around the factory, and people will be walking around on a factory tour with me, and they'll be like, hey, why does that hardtop say Bayless on it? Or why does that hardtop say Spencer on it? Or
Yeah.
even Hatteras? I mean, just
Mhm.
crazy stuff. They're all labeled. And it's because, that's where we build Drew's fiberglass parts. And people
That's
don't
crazy.
realize that. So
Yeah.
it makes you realize how big of a role that Viking has in the whole, fishing industry.
It's awesome. I think for me, one of the coolest things that I really respect about Viking is how they include all the captains, no matter kind of where they're from. I mean, Jesus, the amount of people, because we do a lot of custom gear for, most boats, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
The amount of at Viking Yacht Company, at Galati Yacht Sales, at HMY, and they're just, John Mitchell, for example, John Mitchell at Galati, you know what I mean? And I'm like,
Oh yeah.
okay, very cool.
Yeah,
That's
no,
something
it's a big, that's something we're doing here at Valhalla Boat Sales. And my sales team here, a lot of these guys here that are working with me now are ex-captains or captains, and the biggest thing these days is all the information for any boat is available on the internet. So these people that are honed in on buying a Valhalla, they come in here and they already have all the specs and all the
they know what they
tank
want. Yeah.
capacity, every single thing they've read and know. But the only thing a salesman can really bring to the table is their experience. So these guys that have the experience running these boats and being on the water are the guys that are really excelling on the sales side of things as well. I mean, probably one of the most respected sales guys in the industry is Dave Meyer with HMY, and he is he's an ex-captain, and he just flat out knows boats, and that's what makes him so good. And you can't, I'm not a salesman by any means. I'm not going to sit here and bullshit somebody and on anything, but I've been with Viking long enough to know our product, and now Valhalla, and I can speak from experience, and that's what's really helped me out. So that's what I'm trying to grow with our sales side of things as well with our team.
Someone once told me a very interesting quote, which is that sales isn't about bullshitting someone, it's about recommending someone something that you actually believe in,
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah, no, I definitely, I mean, I believe in what we build and how we do things, and I think people see that when I'm talking to them. So that's been a huge part.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let me ask you a question. If you had to outfit a center console for dead bait trolling, no budget,
Yep.
no budget for specifically dead bait trolling, how would you do it? How would you rig it?
You know, I've been fortunate to fish a couple deadbait tournaments on the Valhallas, and it's a huge advantage on the center console. And the biggest thing, I get people all the time like, oh, I want these big, massive Gemlux outriggers, and I got to be able to pull a dredge. I'm like, you don't want to pull a dredge on a center console from your outrigger by any means. I was like, go buy yourself some dredge booms.
Yeah.
I mean, that is like the most effective way. And the beauty of it, you know, from the first couple times I fished with dredge booms was you could hook a fish and go into a slight turn, and you could have that angler hold his rod over the dredge boom and walk to the bow. And meanwhile, you've got your whole spread out the back, and you hardly have to clear a thing, and you can kind of efficiently keep moving forward, keeping your spread behind you, and just keep fishing. And
do people do that? I've never seen like imagery or video of, like you said, you know how you turn with the Sportfish boat and all that stuff, but like with a center console, you can, like you said, literally fight from the bow and literally fish all four lines, two teasers, two judges.
No, I mean, I know the times we've trolled, we do that. We try to get the angler to the bow and keep fishing, and then I think that's being able to walk around the boat is just a huge advantage. But you know, if you're pulling your dredges from the outriggers, you can't obviously walk up there. You'd have to go under the dredge, which is difficult in itself. So being able to go over that dredge boom, you know, hold your rod tip up and go over top of it is very effective. You know, other things, we offer some refrigeration options. So being able to, you know, have a bait cooler like in our mezzanine box with a bait tray, I think that would be very, very efficient. The rocket launcher option.
What about a custom helm upstairs? Would you do a tuna tower or marlin tower?
I would do a tuna tower.
Really?
Yeah.
Even dead bait?
Even dead baiting. Yeah. I mean, that you're not like super high up there as it is, but yeah, I mean, running our 55 this year up in the tower and all the tournaments, it was just phenomenal. You know, you can see everything.
Okay. And how would you rig it with your teaser, with your squid chain teaser reels up top, or would you have some remote things?
So what we did on our demo boat was we have them up in the hard top, just like a Viking. We have that same removable door, same exact setup, and then we have the Maya remotes up in the tower. So I could control everything from there. A couple times, like you want to hand pull it, you can just do like a tagline down if you want to hand pull your teasers from the tower. When we've had a couple guys that they only fish from the tower, so we also done teaser reels in the buggy top.
Got it.
So we do offer that as well.
Interesting. Okay. And what do you think about mounting like kind of like a Gemlux rigger or a wrap out rigger on the gun wheel? Has it ever? Nobody does that, and I've always kind of thought about. I get the walk around part. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's just another thing that's gonna get in your way when you're trying to walk around the boat. So, you know, we try to make, you know, we run our halyard lines to the seating unit so you can walk around it versus to the gunnel. You know, if you have to walk to the bow and you're to the gunnel, then you got to hand your rod under the teaser or the outrigger halyard every time. So, you know, we're able to kind of go, you know, duck below it, walk around. But yeah, with this 360, you know, fishability around the boat, you know, to try to keep it all as clear as possible, I think is only to your advantage, whether you're trolling or live baiting.
Got it. Okay. Are you guys doing any tournaments up north on the center console or no?
No, so we ran Hull 1. We debuted that boat kind of end of December, early January, Hull 1 of the 55s, and you know, put a bunch of time on it, fish some tournaments, and just we just delivered the boat probably about 3-4 weeks ago to some customers in Ocean Reef. So it was, you know, we learned a lot from it, and had a great time on that boat. It's a sad day to give that thing up. So
Yeah, I saw it at the, what was it? The Palm Beach Boat Show. So cool. It's massive.
it is massive. It grows on you pretty quick, but very maneuverable, and just, I mean, it's a weapon when it comes to fishing. I mean, I was just blown away at how the thing runs. I mean, there were a couple tournaments where some guys called me and said, how are you running in this kind of, sea condition? And I'm in a much bigger boat and you're running by me. But it's just an awesome machine.
Oh, I
I
believe
never
it.
would have guessed we would be building 55-foot center consoles when I started with
Would you
Viking.
go bigger?
I to me, 55 is like, I don't know how we could go much bigger, especially with what we do. I mean, for
Yeah.
us, if you want a bigger boat, you go into a Viking.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that's for us. I mean, you can never say never, but for now, I think that's as big as we talk about at this point. But you already see there's already bigger ones out there.
Yeah,
So.
no, I mean, it's gigantic, but I mean, it must be, honestly, it must be nice, but it must be a convenience to be able to run when in some chop and actually put speed, because just have that, weight and size.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a big advantage to cover some ground so quick. I mean, the boat, our quad engine setup will cruise at 50 very easily, and you can cover some ground if you're in the wrong spot. That's for sure. You can get there quick.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, cool. Well, we always end up with one thing. What would you say is your most memorable fishing story?
Oh man, I've had so many good ones, and the characters we fish with, it's always seems like it's a good time with our group on the boat. Some good stories, but I have some really fun experiences down in Venezuela. Just good numbers, good variety, some great tournament experiences. I think probably my last year fishing, knowing that was going to be my last year, going into certain tournaments, I was like, man, I really want to win this thing. And I can remember I started with Pat at the Buccaneer tournament. That was my first, basically interview with him. And then knowing that was going to be one of my last tournaments to fish, Brian Comer was my mate, and he was moving on to work with HMY Yacht Sales. So it was kind of like our last time fishing together. We knew that was going to be it. And then I knew that was going to be my last sailfish tournament, I thought, as a captain. So, we went into the last day, and that tournament's tough. I mean, you talk about pulling your hair out, because you can either live bait or dead bait, and you hope you made the right decision, because we can kind of hold our own with both. But it turned out the last day, it was basically John Louie and I kind of head to head. He was live baiting, obviously, and we were trolling, and we were fishing the exact same spot, kind of up off Stewart, and there really wasn't many people around us. And we were picking away at him at the troll. We'd catch a double, but then he'd catch a quad. And it was like that all day. And I was absolutely losing my mind, like throwing up in the sink. Like I just wanted it so bad. And within, I think we caught a double in the last like 2 minutes to win. And it was just, it was probably the coolest tournament win I've ever had. But yeah, to go against a guy like, that I looked up to my whole life, knowing he was just the best there is at live baiting, and going against him on the troll, it was pretty cool. And we were like literally trolling under his kites. I mean, it was crazy.
Really?
Yeah, it was a fun tournament. So.
That's awesome, man. Let me ask you, this is the closing question, last one, I promised. What do you have an itch that you would like to scratch? Because like, if I were you, wouldn't you want to run the Los Sueños tournament for a season just to see what it's like? Because that's kind of like, I would say right now, like the Super Bowl of fishing, right? So wouldn't you say you maybe one day want to kind of give that a go? I know Tony runs the thing there and cannot be touched, but just hypothetically speaking.
You know, I don't necessarily, yeah, Tony has that so dialed in.
Yeah, no shit.
I mean, it's like his track record is, and
Yeah.
he's just a phenomenal guy. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a great fisherman, but even better guy.
Yeah.
And to see what he's done over there is amazing, because he's kind of stepped away from full-time fishing, and he has a very successful sales career with
Galati, right? Yeah.
yeah. So he's doing really well over there sales wise. But to see him step in there every season and dominate like he does, it's really cool. For me, I think if I had to scratch an itch, it would be to get the opportunity again up in the Northeast, fishing like our Northeast season.
Really? Okay.
And getting to compete against like Duffy and Greenberg and all these guys, man. That was like what I lived for back in the day, was going head to head with those guys, and Billy Gerlach, and that whole gang up there. They were so good, and super competitive, and we always networked together, but you could just tell we all wanted to kick each other's ass at the end of the day. And but yeah, fishing those tournaments would probably be the thing I'd want to, if I had another shot to do it, I'd probably try it.
Okay. I think that's the best way to end the pod.
Yeah, but I am going to run the Valhalla again for the Sailfish tournaments. So yeah, I've committed with Sean and Justin we're speccing out hull number 19 right now as our demo boat.
55
of the 55s. Yeah. So we're basically setting that up just for live bait sail fishing, and we're going to do Jamie's tournaments and a couple others, Jimmy Johnson and stuff like that. So looking forward to getting out there on that thing again.
That's going to be epic. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. But no, well, Ryan, thanks for coming on, man. It was
man.
super
Thanks for
cool.
having me. I appreciate it.
I think this was definitely one of our best podcasts. It was really,
I
really cool.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well,
It was awesome getting to pick your brain and kind of satisfying all my boat building questions that I've had as a little kid.
Tough, man. Well, I appreciate the invite.
Of course. Thank you. We'll talk. Take care.
All right, man.
Bye-bye.